good business relationships are much more difficult for people who have English as a second language. We see this so many times with my clients where, for example, they say the wrong word within the context or pronounce a word incorrectly. And in itself, that isn't a problem, but the perception that the client sees is something that the presenter is very, very aware of. And it's something they worry about. It makes them nervous because the presenter is thinking, oh, the client is not understanding where the value is here. And they're wasting valuable time trying to figure out the meaning in my delivery. And that's not great. It's not what you want. So, but that causes a feeling of panic, and it makes things worse. And that's where people re-explain the same thing with the same language, and it doesn't help. In fact, it makes things worse. And actually, just as an aside, it's really prevalent for senior and middle managers and even executives to really feel that professional embarrassment, even though it's often not warranted. But they worry, and that prevents them from acting. And I feel like that's often one of the biggest barriers to companies and to business professionals really making the most of the relationships they've got and going out there and kind of expanding and taking advantage of the opportunities that are there. I find that if people speak the content to identify the keywords and phrases where they go wrong, then that will be a hugely important and improving action to take, because and actually, again, this is a side point, but often people think, you know, we're a company that has English as a second language, so I need to invest in teaching English. And I'm not saying that's wrong. However, only a small part of that learning will really help with presentation, pitches, and business relationships. And actually, the real test is about what's going to make the biggest difference. What are the keywords and phrases you're going to be saying? What is the type of, content you have to convey and the messages you have to convey? And what are the keywords and phrases? Because practicing those and getting those right makes a bigger impact overall. I'll give you an example. And this is really common actually, and a number of my Italian clients had this issue where they mixed up two words. It was our and your. And of course, if you're saying, we want to, well, actually, in this example, he said, we want to understand our services. Well, when you think about that, well, surely you already know your services. What he was trying to say is, we want to understand your services, your onward services to your customers. So two things wrong there, the word itself, so that practice would have prevented that from happening. And of course, in any case, we shouldn't be saying, we want to understand the customer. We should already know that. We should go in there, planned and organised and prepared. So practicing is really, really important. And with someone who's going to focus you on the right things that make a difference to your success, not just general things that make an improvement to your English or your style. They're useful, yes, but are they going to get you the deal? That's what I care about, and that's what I'm passionate about. And that's why I care more about behavioural science, neuroscience, those things that influence and change the outcome that you get. And I'm sorry, this is a longer perhaps answer than you were hoping for. But you know what? Some people also worry about the wrong things. They worry about, for example, someone said to me recently, I want to sound intelligent and fluent. And, my question is, well, why? You're an international company. The UK client knows you're not a UK based company with English as a first language. So they're not expecting fluency. So why would that be a huge target or a worry for you? And sounding intelligent, again, why? Actually, what you probably need is to sound knowledgeable in your field, expert in the area that you're presenting on, and in demand as a company that offers these services and products and knows what that company needs you to know. That's much more important. So it is also about Well, in that case, actually, it was about slowing down and practicing the content you're going to deliver. And because actually sounding like you have the knowledge, and for people who have English as a second language, this is more difficult. You sound more like you have the knowledge if you have thinking time to say the right words, right? That's really, really important. The thinking time is what can just kill your confidence. So, and actually there's a way to slow down, and it might not be what you think. I don't know how you slow down, but for what I often find, people think slowing down means leaving longer gaps between the words. Let me tell you, that is not how you slow down and sound more proficient. What slowing down involves is saying the words for a longer spell. So each word is elongated as you go through your sentence. It really is, look, bottom line, it's all about how you're perceived. That's what's going to determine your success or failure here, with your relationships, with your presentations, and with your pitches. And people think, I will just add, and sorry, I keep adding tangents, but people often think, you know, the pitch and the presentation is all that matters. Actually, the business relationship that you have can either be maintained and mean you continue to have a good contract, a good partnership, a good client. Not doing that well runs a risk of losing your client and losing potential future business. So please don't forget the value of that maintenance, okay? Really, really important. It's not just about new business. If you already have someone who likes and trusts you, you've got a good relationship with, it's worth gold. It really, really is. So this is something I always say: avoid the mistakes and win them over. And that's what I'd leave you with.